Good morning once again. Today I shared with you a file which just gives us some formulas, basic formulas using LaTeX. So let's just briefly discuss this so that in your paper you know how to create formulas based on LaTeX. Okay. Bakit ang liit ng ano nito? Yeah, okay. So for example, this is just a formula for simple mean using LaTeX. You notice that it's slash bar and then y. So that's how you create this symbol average of y. You use the bar that I don't know if you can call that a function, but slash bar and then open and close parentheses, curly brackets. I mean the variable that where you want the bar to be placed. No? And then here you have 1 over n, you have the fraction here. So the first, you have slash fraction. The first curly brackets will be the numerator, and you have the second brackets will be the denominator. Okay, and then here you have slash sum, that will be for your summation symbol, okay, sigma symbol. Okay, and then you have underscore, okay, I is equal to 1 up to n, or you may put here slash and then you may put your limits. It's the same. Okay, so you have the same answer. You have, okay, tama ba? Slash limits or dito? Let me check. So slash limits underscore n. So this is for the lower limit, I is equal to 1. And then caret for the upper limit, n. Okay, and then you have y underscore I. Underscore I is the subscript. Okay, so you can, I suggest you look at this, and it's at this start, may syempre may learning curve, pero as you go along class, you'll get to understand and appreciate the LaTeX format kasi mas maganda to sa when you print your R. Okay, mas maganda to, mas madali, no? Kaysa yung sa Excel medyo mahirap to. Although may formula function si Excel, but for me initially I found it difficult to do this, pero as you go along mas madali-dali na, no? Familiarity lang. Okay, so here are some other functions, formulas. Okay, so this one, sigma squared, your sample variance, etc. So I have given you this. Okay, kindly take a look at this one. Okay, and study this on your own. Okay, you'll be definitely using this in your first case. So I'll discuss the first case, the group case, with you next meeting. All right, so let's open the file that we're going to use today. So it's multiple linear regression. We're going to continue with our discussion, and let's have a brief review of what we have discussed so far. And I'd like you to load yung psych package. These packages we have already encountered before, yung psych, HMISC, Groom, Pastex, Desk Tools, SchemR. Okay, these are packages that we use for exploratory data analysis. Okay, and then we also have Tidyverse is an all-around package. And then ggAlly, ggFortify, ggplot2 comes with the Tidyverse, that's for data visualization. OLSRR, this is for stepwise regression. And then Stargazer, this is for creating tables, beautiful tables in R. Okay, some of these packages we haven't used, but we will be using them as we go along. Okay, so we're using this wage data set, and you know that we can already just straightforward, use the read underscore CSV that comes from your reader package. You don't have to identify the file location, you just have to identify the file name. We can do this because we are inside this project and the file is inside our, asan na yung, dito ba siya? Walmart. Wait, okay, sorry I think I'm in the wrong, dali. I think I'm in the wrong project. Okay, so let me just open this project. Okay, so let me close this. No? Let me close this and let me open itong project natin. Ito, multiple regression. Okay, so I'm opening the project. Okay, and you can see now there are two projects that I have opened. I'm interested in this, okay, multiple regression project. Okay, and let me open this. This one. Okay, so let me just load this, load the packages, and then let me load the wage dataset. It should be here. Yeah, nandito yung wage dataset natin, no? And I'm opening this. This is our project I'm using number 2 multiple regression. So which means I can run this. Let me run this. And I can view here now the wage dataset. Okay, so this is the dataset that we have been using the past few sessions. Okay, so we said that when we deal with the multiple regression, linear regression, we want the dependent variable to be highly correlated with your independent variable. But we don't want the independent variables to be highly correlated. Otherwise, we might fall into what we call multicollinearity. We don't want the independent variables to be highly correlated because they will compete with each other in trying to describe or explain the variability of your dependent variable. And it will be quite difficult, challenge to disentangle which part of the variation of your dependent variable is being explained by your independent variable. So what we did here, this is only a review class, is create this object wage1 where we subset yung wage natin. We're removing negative C 4 to 6. Why is that so? Because column 4 to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4 are your categorical variables. And we know that categorical variables do not have a correlation. We don't want to include them kasi magugulo lang yung plot natin. No? Okay, so we're using the site package, in particular the pairs.panels for wage1, which we did last time. So let me just run this too. Control Enter. And you can now see that I now have this wage1 with 5 variables. Okay, and then we have here the autocorrelation plot. Okay, so something to watch out for is hourly wage, its autocorrelation, its correlation with the other variables. Independent variable, no? So for example, itong 0.421, what does this mean? Okay, you can know that this has something to do with the correlation of education. Kasi di ba dito sa plot na to, mag-create tayo ng ng rectangle, no? This one. Okay, so you identify the four corners. So this is education, this is hourly wage, this is the correlation. Okay, and then dito sa diagonals, we know that this is the plot, okay, histogram of the independent of each variable. And this one, this plot here, education, 0.41, hourly wage, and this one, this is the bivariate plot. This is the scatter plot. So lahat to alam natin kung ano to. No? And we remove the categorical variables because they will just create noise dun sa ano natin, sa plot natin. And we said that we don't want the correlation among the independent variables to be quite high. Itong 0.5 na to, saan to? Once again, create this rectangle, no? Ito. 0.5 experience and tenure. So this is the correlation between experience and tenure. No? And then this is their scatter plot. These are their univariate plots. Histogram sila. Okay, there's another way to do this. Same thing lang naman, medyo ibang format lang. Okay, which I feel is, let's say, better for formal papers, which is this one. No? Itong GG pairs ng wage 1. If we plot this, you get the same answer. However, it's more formal in the sense that it's more color neutral. Okay, and you can see here on the x-axis, yung mga variables, on the y-axis, also the variables. So it's easier to understand, easier to pinpoint what these are. So same thing ito, these are the histograms, no? Density distribution ng mga independent variables natin. Okay, and then again, this one gives us the correlation between, kasi titingnan din natin itong rectangle na to, no, di ba? So what is this rectangle here? Okay, it's your education and your experience. No? So this is your univariate plot. This is your scatter plot. This is your correlation between education and experience. It's negative 0.3. Okay. All right. So we have discussed that before. Okay, let's continue our discussion now. Before we do a regression, it's important to do a scatter plot. So we said that if there's only one variable that we're going to use in order to explain hourly wage, the best option should be education, by virtue of the fact that it has the highest correlation with hourly wage. Okay, 0.4 yung correlation nila, positive. No? Tapos yung iba, number of dependents, 0.05 lang. The next one is tenure, around 0.35. Okay, so this one, we actually have that plot already. It's actually this one. Hourly wage and education, ito yun. So we expect to have the same plot here. Okay, so we can dispense with the wage dollar education here by attaching. We can attach the variable here, right? Attach wage so that we don't have to identify where education and hourly wage comes from. So let's just run this, and we can see here that this plot is actually similar to this plot. So yun, hourly wage and education. Okay. All right. So you can see here that there seems to be a weak trend, no? Although, pag titingnan natin to class yung plot na to, there seem to be some violations as far as the assumptions of classical linear model is concerned. In particular, yung normality, no? Yung normality ng yung relationship ng hourly wage at saka ng education. Okay, so, and then we now create our first linear model. We called it mod 1, okay, LM hourly wage education. Now, let me just let me just here, we're introducing this model class, model 1, where we're regressing hourly wage on education. It's also possible, Control Alt I, to create a model. Let's call it model 0, okay, Alt minus, where you are creating a linear model, hourly wage, and then shift tilde. And then we're not going to use any, okay? We're not going to use any variable. So ibig sabihin, class, we're just going to use hourly wage itself. So let's assume that you don't have any data about education, about tenure. So how do you now predict, or how do you now explain your hourly wage? Well, just choose the hourly wage itself. Just get the average. So no matter what what the scenario is, your prediction for hourly wage will still be the average of hourly wage. So we can explain hourly wage using the average of hourly wage. And how do we do that? Okay, tilde, and then we just write here 1. Okay, so 1, and then data is equal to wage. So what does this tell us? Okay, and then let's get the summary of this. Summary of model 0. Okay, so let's run this. So what do we now have? Okay, what we now have is, this is our formula, tilde 1, and then these are our residuals. And then what are the coefficients? We have the intercept. So we don't have any predictor here. We only have the intercept. And the intercept, 5.896, is actually, okay, so let's just get the mean of the wage data set, hourly wage. In other words, because we're not going to use the other variables, we'll just use hourly wage itself. Okay, and what's the average of hourly wage? If you run this, it's 5.896, diba? And that 5.896 is this one. Okay, 5.896. So yung model 0, okay, where we're not going to use any independent variable, tilde 1 just means get the average. Okay, 5.896. And then we can see that here, the mean, the intercept is significant, no? At 0.001, tatlong stars dito. Okay, and then we have some details here. We have the estimate, we have the standard error, p-value, and the p-value. Okay, so just so we know that pwede tayo model na hindi natin ginagamit yung independent variables natin. And here we call it model 0. Okay, and let's just quickly take a look at that model 0. Ano ba laman ng model 0 na yan? Okay, let me open this. Okay, model 0. Okay, let's take a look at this. So, coefficients niya, isa lang, ano? 5.896. Ito yung mga residuals niya. Okay, and then take a look at this. Ano yung fitted value? Fitted value is the predicted value. So, ang fitted value natin is just the average. Kasi, whatever the response, whatever the data is, whatever the observation, ang predicted value pa rin natin, okay, whether education is 11, experience is 2, that doesn't matter. Ang predicted value natin will be 5.9, 5.896, which is the average. So lahat dito, ang predicted value natin is 5.896, which is the average. So we couldn't care less about these other variables. Hindi natin ginagamit siya. Basta ang ginamit lang natin yung average ni hourly wage. Okay? So you can see here that dito sa model 0, ang predicted value niya is lahat 5.9, 5.9, 5.9, etc. Okay, let me pause for a while. Any questions about that, class? yung model na to, yung tilde 1. Paki-chat please, class, kung clear. Any questions? Clear ba so far? Okay, good. Okay, good. So, kita natin to, class, ha? LM, hourly wage, regressed on 1. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, so let's proceed. Now, of course, there are, based on maybe other studies in the past, it was shown that hourly wage is related or associated with education. So yung hourly wage ng isang individual is affected by or is related or associated with education. So we're going to use that kasi mayroon tayong data, kinuha natin education. So we're going now to regress hourly wage on education. Data is equal to wage, and let's call it model 1. So this is what we did before, no? Okay. So if we take a look at this, yung model natin, hourly wage, regression, education. So dalawa na yung natin dito, no? Dalawa na yung parameters natin dito. The first is the intercept, okay? And the second one is the education. Okay? And then we also have the standard errors, t-values, probabilities. Okay, for today, we're going to look at the anatomy of our regression output. Gusto natin, class, na maging comfortable tayo looking at this one. Okay, so we're going to take a look at them one by one. Isa-isa natin siya, and then make sure that we understand where this is coming from so that you can actually compute for this on your own. Okay, kaya natin i-compute yan using R without generating this. Of course, R can do it for us, but it's also important for us to understand where this is coming from. Okay, so we have here the two parts. You have here the individual test. So here we'd like to see whether education is a significant predictor of hourly wage. And also we have here the overall goodness of fit test. So dalawang hypothesis test dito, no? Ito yung number 1, okay, whether B1 or education is equal to 0. And then ito din, which is quite similar to this one, kasi pag simple linear regression lang din, ang null hypothesis din natin dito is B1 is equal to 0. Ganun din dito, B1 is equal to 0. So we're going to explain them one by one. All right, so we have the value of the of education, no? Ito, 0.541. Okay, we can actually compute for that. Okay, you can compute also for the value of the intercept, this negative 0.9, but I will leave that, class. I will ask you to do that on your own. Yung binigay ko sa inyo LaTeX formula, ando dun siya. No? You can experiment, look at how you can compute for this intercept. Okay, actually, gagawin na lang din natin, ano? Okay, let me just show you. Okay, so this is the formula. In order to compute for your, okay, to compute for your beta 1, your slope for education, ito siya. No? Okay, actually, class, itong formula na to, siyempre naggaling yan sa, nag-calculus muna yan, no, bago na-derive to. So kinuha niya yung calculus, tapos it made sure that the OLS, that the parameters, yung beta 1, yung beta 0, okay, should result in such a way that the squared residuals, okay, should be minimized. Minimum dapat yung residuals, yung difference between your predicted value and your actual value. So that's the objective. Kaya nga ang tawag sa kanya, ordinary least squares. Okay, so which means yung actual value minus the predicted value squared, dapat yung summation yan dapat minimized. We'd like to minimize this one, the squared residuals. Okay, so that ang gusto natin determine ng beta null at saka beta 1 where the squared residuals is minimized. Okay, so ang lumabas na formula ito. Okay, so to minimize the squared residuals, you have now your x is your education minus the average of education. Your y is your hourly wage minus the average of your hourly wage. Okay, technically class, ito, if I divide this by n minus 1 and also this one by n minus 1, okay, it will give us a value. So that's why yung beta null, it's actually equal to what? What's this? X minus x a bar times y minus y sub bar, and then summation divided by n minus 1. Do you recall what this is? Anyone? And this one also, what's this? Ano yung nasa denominator, ano yung nasa numerator? What do you recall from your basic statistics? Ano yung x minus x bar times y minus y bar, and then kunin natin square root nila, and then divided by n minus 1. Anybody? Class? What's this value? Of course, class, nagka-cancel yung n minus 1, no? Kasi pareho silang may n minus 1. Kaya ang binibigay lang ng formula ito. Kasi magka-cancel naman itong n minus 1. But the whole formula is that merong n minus 1 yan. Ito din sa baba may n minus 1. And therefore, what is the numerator here? Can anybody recall? Inaral niyo sa basic stat niyo. X minus x bar times y minus y bar summation over n minus 1 is your, what's that, class? I'll give you a few seconds. Ito, ano to? Yung denominator. Ano to, class? O siguro ito, alam nyo to, x minus x bar squared. No? Yung summation yan over n minus 1. What's that? Anybody, please? X minus x bar, y minus y bar, summation over n minus 1. Waiting for your answer, class?
Sir,
Yes?
can I try standard deviation?
Which one?
The lower one po.
Lower one? Ang standard deviation, okay, malapit na. Pero hindi standard deviation to. Ano to? Malapit na, malapit na.
Variance?
Ha? Yes, variance, no? Kasi ang standard deviation may square root yun, ba? So this is the variance of what? The variance of ano to? You're correct. This is the variance of class. Ayan, no? Di ba? Ayan. The variance of what? Variance of, ayan, class, ayan na, ayan na. Ano yung variable natin? X, of course, di ba? X. So, since this is a sample n minus 1 kasi, otherwise kung population yun, divide by n, di ba? We write it as an S, di ba? S. Okay, S. Variance of X. And then since this is variance, may square to. Ayan. So, this is how you write the variance of X. So, S, no? Sigma. Roman letter, not Greek letter kasi kung Greek yan, sigma, ibig sabihin population yan. How about this class? Ano to? O ito, ano to? O, X and Y, ano siya? Ito X on X eh. Kasi this is just the same as X sub I minus X bar times X sub I minus X bar. Di ba? So you're co-varying your X with X. Kaya ang tawag sa kanya, variance. Ito naman, ano to, class? You have two variables here. So that's your cross product ng X at saka ng Y. You call it class what? Hello? Call it class? Ito, variance, no? Variance X. Ito naman, Dalawang variables ka, so anong tawag dyan, class? Ito, x times x yan, no? Squared kasi yan eh. So it's just the same as x sub I minus x bar times x sub I minus x bar. Pareho lang ito nasa taas. Kung nga lang, ang kaiba niya, ito x at saka y. Therefore, that's your, ano class? That's your covariance. And we write it this way, sxy, no? Ito sx, tapos squared. Okay? You don't put here squared, no? Ang covariance niya is sxy. So this is the covariance of x and y. And the formula is this one. Ito naman, the variance of x. You don't put xx here, no? Kasi ito na yun. Or you can put it as sxx, sxx, dalawa. If you write this, you don't have to put squared here. Or you can just put s, x, and then squared here. All right, so it's the covariance. It's actually the covariance of x and y divided by the variance of x. Diba? Ito yung formula na yun, no? So, that's your P1. Huh? That's your slope. Okay, let me clear this. Any questions? Paki-chat naman please kung nakuha nyo yung tinatanong ko. Yung concept ng B1 natin, yung slope. Okay, take note, this is only for a simple linear regression. Ha? Iba yung formula kapag multiple linear regression. Okay, paki-chat please kung nakuha tong formula na to. Okay, all right. About the others? Lima lang yung nag-reply. Paki-confirm nga Kas kung if you're able to get. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, thank you for the feedback, class. That's very important for me. And please, if you have any questions, ano lang ha, class ha? Kasi journey natin to, learning journey natin to. Hindi tayo nagmamadali dito. Okay, so let me clear ko muna yung mga drawings natin. Close ko to. Okay. So let's evaluate that. No? We did this last time. So yung formula na yan, okay, we just do it here. So I'm creating this object B1 and then i-attach natin si wage so that we don't have to write it here. So it's the sum of education minus mean of education times hourly wage minus mean of hourly wage. No? Cross product yan siya. Then isa-sum natin and then divide it by, once again, the sum of education minus the mean of education squared. Ayan. So this is the correct formula. No? Ginamit natin yung data natin, in particular yung hourly wage at education. Bakit education? Kasi sa model na to, we're just using education as our single regressor. No? All right, if I run this, I'm getting 5413, okay, which is exactly 5413. Ito. No? Okay, so we were able to validate na ito nga yung education, tama siya, based on this formula. Okay? All right. And then what's the interpretation of B1? We said that B1 is interpreted as for every 1 unit change. It tells us of the marginal change in your outcome variable, which is hourly wage. The B1 tells us of the effect of this variable of a 1 unit change in your variable on your hourly wage. So ang sinasabi dito, kung magbago ng isang unit, kung madagdagan ng isang unit, si education, hourly wage will increase. Bakit increase? Kasi positive to. Increase by 0.54, which in our case is dollars. No? So for every 1 year increase in education, there's a corresponding 54 centavos or $0.54 increase in hourly wage ceteris paribus, which means all things being the same. Okay, ibig sabihin, ang ipapa-increase lang natin ng 1 unit education. Yung iba, walang increase. Constant sila. No? Hindi sila magi-increase. Ang magbabago lang si education ng 1 unit. No? Therefore, pag magbago si education ng 2 years, ang effect nito 0.54 times 2 kasi 2 years na. Alright. So, also, okay, any questions, class? Clear ba tayo dito sa pag-compute ng 0.54 na yan? Okay, chat please. Kung may questions dun sa 0.54 na yan. Clear ba so far? Paki-chat naman please kung clear, class. Okay, thank you. Waiting for the others for their feedback. Thank you. Okay, please bear with me when I ask these questions, class, kasi I just want to be assured that you're able to follow. Kasi it doesn't make sense, class, kung tuloy-tuloy ako nag-i-explain dito tapos hindi pala maganda yung pag-explain ko, malabo pala. So I want some feedback from your end. Otherwise, I'll stop and then explain again na okay lang yun, class, kasi hindi naman tayo nag-sprint dito. We're here for the long haul, mas marathon to. No? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's continue. So ito yung formula ng natin, ng B1, ano? And then, pag alam na natin si B1 class, makukuha na natin si B0. And the formula for B0 is the average of Y minus yung B1 natin na na-solve natin times the average of X. Okay, so this is very straightforward, no? So that's why inuunang i-compute si B1 before we compute for B0, which is the intercept. So very easy to sa R, no? So we're creating this object B0 here, which is just the mean of your hourly wage minus B1, since we already have this. Di ba may B1 na tayo dito? Yan. We already have B1, and then times the mean of education, X bar. Okay, and then we run this, and we have negative 0.905, which is the same as this one, negative 0.90485. Okay, so we were able to validate yung value ng beta null. And what's the interpretation of beta null? Okay, intercept yan, ibig sabihin, that's the value of your dependent variable hourly wage when all your predictors are all equal to 0. Okay, in our case, isa lang predictor natin sa education. So, ang ibig sabihin ng B null is that is the average hourly wage, okay, when your education is 0. Pag walang education, yan ang hourly wage. Now, we don't put any practical interpretation or significance to that. Kasi, wala naman talagang practical implication. Kasi, pwede ba naman magkaroon ng negative hourly wage? Ibig sabihin yung individual pa yung magbabayad sa company, di ba? It doesn't make sense. Okay? And also, balikan natin dito, significant ba class yung natin? Is B1 significant? Okay, I forgot to ask that question a while ago. Education is significant. Why? Because of the p-value. Okay, sabi natin, ang benchmark natin is alpha, which is your level of significance. And usually, ang ginagamit, 0.05. Okay, saan nanggaling yung 0.05 na yan? Sabi ko nga, nanggaling kay Robert Fisher yan. Pinag-develop nito. Now, anong basis niya? Well, arbitrary lang siya, no? However, it caught fire. Hanggang ngayon, ginagamit pa rin siya. No? So, naging parang accepted na standard na siya. Okay? So, if your p-value, if your probability is less than 0.05, okay, so sabi natin ito, merong null hypothesis yan. Ang null hypothesis natin, H null, sorry for the writing, is B1 is equal to 0. So we're testing this. Okay, is B1 equal to 0? The answer is that the p-value is less than 0.05, therefore, rejecto. We reject this null hypothesis that B1 is equal to 0. There's strong statistical reason to believe that B1 is a value other than 0. In fact, yung average niya is 0.541. Okay? So you can also determine if significant siya, okay? Not using the p-value, but using the t-value. Pwede natin gamitin to for us to conclude that whether we reject the null hypothesis or fail to reject the null hypothesis. Okay? Ano ibig sabihin ng 3 stars, by the way, dito, class? This is significant at what? Significant at? Anyone, please? Yung 3 stars dito, significant at what value? What level? Wala pang sumasagot? Significant at what siya, class? 3 stars, ano ibig sabihin nun? Ito, 3 stars. Significant at?
Sir, it's significant at 0.0001.
0.00, ano? Pakiulit, please. Significant at?
0.0001.
Sumobra, no? Itong 3 stars, ito siya. Yan. So significant at 0.001 or 0.1%. No? Okay, take note that your p-value is a range of values from 0 up to 1. No? Up to 1. So if it's less than 0.001, 3 stars yun. Ito. If it's less than 0.01, then 2 stars. If it's less than 0.05, then it's 1 star. Okay. If it's less than 0.1, okay, pero of course greater than 0.05, then it's just a dot here. Okay, otherwise, okay, so yan ang mga possible values. 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, and a dot. Okay, ang acceptable sa usual na convention, 3, 2, 1 star. Ito kasi yung dot, pag may nakita kayong dot, kunyari dito, kunyari dot na ganyan. This one. Ibig sabihin, significant lang yan at the 10%. Which means that your probability is less than 0.10. So, kunyari, 0.08, 0.07. And it's not lower than 0.05. Okay. All right. So, let's continue our discussion. Okay. Next is this one. Yung susunod na output natin ito, yung standard error. Okay, ano tong standard error? Okay, so this is supposed to measure the average error, no? Ng parameter natin ng education o ng intercept natin. So I want you to look at the definition of the standard error of the intercept at saka standard error of the slope. Kasi dalawa yan, diba? Dalawang values ng standard error natin. Standard error of the intercept and the standard error of the slope. So others would write this as like this. So ito, SE ng slope, standard error ng intercept, B sub O. Ito naman, standard error SE ng slope ng B1. Okay? So may mga meaning yung mga yan, no? So anong meaning ng standard error of the intercept and the standard error and of the slope, and why are they very important? So napaka-importante ng metric yan, no? Okay, so let's learn how this is computed. Let's just focus on the standard error of education. I will leave you to compute for the standard error of the intercept. As of now, ang pinaka-importante sa atin yung standard error ng slope. And the formula for that is this one. Okay? So it's standard error of the slope B1. Yung isa standard error SE ng B0, di ba? B0 kasi intercept. And the formula is 1 over n minus 2, okay, times this summation of the actual value y sub I minus the fitted value squared divided by So ito class, sum of the squares to, no? Sum of the squares. Okay, later on, pag-aaralan natin, ano yung sum of the squares to? Tapos ano to? This is also x sub I. Ito alam natin to kasi this is actually yung variance, di ba? This is the variance of your x, of your education. Pero ito, may special name to. This is sum of the squares of a particular value. Alright, so here, binigay ko na yung formula for the interest of time. Yung numerator, ito, ginawa ko lang sum ng, this is hourly wage minus, ano itong y hat? Di ba, makukuha natin sa mod 1 yan. Mod 1, dollar fitted values. Yun ang y hat natin. Diba? Those are our predicted values ng model 1. And then, we get the difference and then square it and then sum it. Okay, so dalawang kinukuha natin, ano? Ito yung hourly wage, ito yung fitted value, sinasubtract natin, minaminus natin. Pagkatapos natin isubtract, ini-square natin. Pagkatapos natin i-square, isa-sum up natin. Okay? So I'm creating this object called numerator na lang, num. Okay, and then I'll run that. And that one, 5980 to, itong numerator na to. Also with the denominator, okay, ano yung denominator natin? X is your education, minus mean of education squared, and then sum. So that's your numerator ito. Tinawag ko na lang ng denominator, denominator pala. And the denominator is 4025. Okay, so ito, no? Numerator, denominator. And then, okay, computein natin, no? Alright. So, ito class, square root, di ba? Square root of 1 over n minus 2. So what's n? N is a number of observations. That's your n row ng wage. Ito yan, no? And then minus 2. And then times your numerator divided by the denominator. Okay, so if we run this, itong tatlong to, okay, I'm getting now the standard error of your slope, which is 0.05324. And let's validate kung pareho ba siya. 0.05324. Yan, okay? This one. Eksakto siya. I'll leave you guys to compute for the standard error of your intercept. Okay, so that's the standard error of your slope. Ano ibig sabihin yan? Of course, the lower the standard error, the better. Pag mas mababa yung standard error, mas maganda yon. Ibig sabihin, mas lesser yung average na, it's just like the standard deviation of the errors. Okay? Alright. Pause muna ako. Any questions about that class? Yung 0.05 na yan, nakuha ba kung paano we're able to get how this was obtained? Paki-chat naman please. Feedback kung nakuha yung computation ng standard error. Okay, thank you. About the others? Okay, salamat ha. All right. So once you are able to compute for the standard error of your slope, anong gamit niyan? Okay, ang gamit ngayon yan, class, is we're going to use the standard error of your slope, in order to compute for your t-value. Okay? So bakit natin kailangan si t-value? We need t-value so that we know if yung estimate natin, yung B1 natin, is statistically significant. Or baka random lang na naging gantong value. Baka there's a possibility na zero pala yan. Kasi pag hindi significant to, ibig sabihin nun, there's a possibility that this is equal to 0. And if this is equal to 0, then that means there's no association between education and hourly wage. Kasi kung 0 to class, then yung equation natin, hourly wage is equal to beta null plus beta 1 times x. Diba? Walang use yung B1 doon since it's possibly 0 then. So ibig sabihin, walang association si education at saka si hourly wage. So this is very critical, no? Itong standard error na to, importante to, in order to compute for your t-value. Okay, thank you for your feedback, class. Appreciate that. All right, so the formula to compute for your t-value is this one. Nasa ilalim, no? So linagay ko na dito, class, para mas madali nating ma-discuss. We focus more on the interpretation. All right, take a look at this. The t-value is equal to beta 1 minus 0. Now ito, class, yung beta, yung 0 na to, this is what we're hypothesizing. Ang gusto natin malaman, ano ba yung value ni beta 1, B1? Okay, and usually, pag regression, kina-hypothesize natin na B1 is equal to 0. Yan ang hypothesis natin. Kaya nga B1 minus 0. If we were hypothesizing na B1 is equal to 2, then magiging B1 minus 2 to. Okay? But for regression, we're hypothesizing that B1 is equal to 0. So, ang naging formula nito, T is equal to just the quotient of B1 minus the standard error. So, i-divide lang natin. Divide natin si B1 at saka si standard error. Okay? So, meron na tayong standard error. Ito, SEB1. Meron na rin tayong B1. So, we can now compute for the T-stat. Alright. So, ito, class, no? The formula is T-stat of B1. Take note, T-stat ni, ni slope is equal to B1 minus the standard error. Okay? Yun lang. Straightforward. I-divide lang natin just divide B1, 0.54, divided by the standard error, 0.05. All right. So we can now have our T-stat, ito. So ang value ng T-stat natin, control enter, is 10.17, which is the same as this one. Yun, 10.17. No? Okay? So nakuha na natin tong estimate, which is, by the way, class, no? Let me show you another way to, hindi ko pinakita to, no? Okay. Kunin natin to. Just as an added exercise. Di ba sabi natin si B1, okay. Let's print that. B1, I'll call it B1A, no? B1A is covariance nino, X and Y, ni education at saka ni hourly wage, diba? Divided by the variance of X, which is your education. Ito yung kanina, diba? Sabi natin, B1 is actually the covariance of between education and hourly wage divided by the variance of education. Okay? So, covariance, variance, and then I'll close this para mag-print siya. So, what's now B1A? Okay? Dapat pareho siya sa B1. No? Ang B1 natin is 0.54, di ba? Okay, so let's run this. Nasaan na siya? Ito, no? And you get exactly the same thing. Parehong-pareho yan. No? So I just wanted to show you that the value of B1 is equal to the covariance of your education and hourly wage and the variance of your education, which is what we said a while ago about this one. Okay, so balik tayo ng T-stat, no? Ito importante sa atin ngayon. T-stat. Okay, so it's 10.17. Ngayon, saan natin ginagamit yung T-stat na yan? In order to generate your p-value. Ito. So, kailangan natin yung T-stat. Okay, this one is needed so that we can compute for the p-value, which is this one. No? Okay. Actually, class, strictly speaking, you don't need this. Because just based on the t-value, you can determine if your hypothesis, which is B1, in this case, B1 is equal to 0, if B1 is statistically significant or not, or whether we will reject the null hypothesis or fail to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, not by looking at your probability, but by looking at your t-value. So, paano natin gagawin yon? Okay, pero gamitin muna natin si t-value. Okay, so how were we able to compute for the t-value here kasi dito lumalabas na 2e to the negative 16 and significant at 0.001, 3 stars. And we know, class, that this one, ano ibig sabihin yan? 2e to the negative 16, di ba sabi natin? Mag-start ka ng 0 point, no? From the point, you go 16 places, 15 places, no? And then yung 16th is a 2. So 0 point, you have 15 zeros and then 2. That's the meaning of that. So that's practically 0, 0.0000, etc. 2, right? And that's much less than 0.05. Yun ang ibig sabihin nun. Yung 2e to the negative 16. Okay. But let's just first check kung ito nga talaga yung ano. If that's really the value of your p-value. Now remember, class, sabi natin, when the p is low, the null must go, di ba? Okay, let's go here. Now, I already gave you the formula here. Okay, pinakita ko na yung formula dito, no? Did I? Okay, hindi pa. Ito pinakita ko na. No, so we can compute for the p-value. Okay, so yung p-value niya, class, we can use a p-stats function. So, hanapin natin pt. So, this is the probability ng t. So, let's seek the help function. Ayan. That's from the stats package. All right? So, we have here, ito yung mga functionalities natin. Ito, no? Meron tayong dt, pt, qt, rt. So, this is what we need, pt. Because we're interested in the probability. Yan. Vector of probabilities. Yan ang gusto natin, no? So, what's the syntax? The syntax is, if you're looking for the probability, so you have your Q first. Okay? Ano si Q? Si Q is your t-stat. No? Ito yung t-stat natin. Meron na ba tayong t-stat? Yes, meron na tayo. Ito yung 10 point something. So we have Q. Degree of freedom, we have this also. Okay, and then this one, lower that tail. Ang default niya, lower that tail is equal to true. Now, ano ibig sabihin ng lower that tail? Okay, so if you recall from your elementary statistics, ang t-distribution is just like a normal distribution na ano siya, class? Ano siya? What do you call class? Yung right side at left side pareho lang. They are what we call symmetric siya, no? Symmetric with respect to this one, yung middle, yung median. Okay, symmetric siya dyan. No? Okay, so when we say lower that tail is equal to 2, ibig sabihin nun, ito yung value ng t which we're looking at, and then this is the probability. So this is the default. So if you know this value, okay, you can compute for this one. You can compute for the probability. And since this is symmetric, okay, ang kailangan natin is this one at saka this one. So dalawa kasi yung probabilities natin, di ba? One on the left and one on the right. So you can compute for the probability by just getting one and then multiplying by 2. Okay? And we call it two-sided yan. No? Two-sided na yung t-distribution natin. Okay, with that, class, let's now compute for the p-value. Kaso, what's our t-value, class? Pakichat nga kung ano yung t-value natin. What is our t-value? Chat or unmute, pakisabi na lang, class. Paki-unmute na lang. Ano yung t-value natin? Anyone, please? Class, ano? Hello, class. What's our t-value, class? Our t-stat. Nasolve na natin yun. Class, ano yung t-stat natin? Nasolve na natin yun. Ito, di ba? Ito. Nasolve natin ito. Ano to, class? What's this value? Okay, correct. Thank you, Julius. 10.17. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Now, ang tanong, saan siya? Yung 10.17 ba natin, is it here? Is it here? Or is it here? Saan siya, class? 10.17. Hello? Where is our T? Is it here? Remember, guys, dalawa yan, dalawa yan, kasi double-sided tayo eh. Asan yung 10.17? Is it on this side or is it on this side? Of course, class, it's on this side. Positive siya, di ba? So this is equal to 10.17. Okay. We know now the T value. No? So therefore, mako-compute natin either this one or the one on the right. Okay, you can compute for the probability, either the one on the right or the one on the left. Now, for our purposes, compute muna natin itong the one on the right. No? Okay, the one on the right. Of course, we can compute the one on the left kasi alam naman natin yung buong probability niyan, 100% yan. Eh. So kung makompute mo to, 1 minus this amount will be this, di ba? Yung the one on the left. Okay? So how do we compute for that? So dapat yung lower that tail, gagawin natin true or false, class. Will it be true or false? Remember, the default is lower that tail is equal to true. Ibig sabihin lower that tail, ito yon dito. Lower tail eh. Dito, nasa kabilang side. So, since ang default natin lower that tail is equal to true, what do we do with this one? Class? Okay, correct. Thank you na okay. Yan, salamat, Abidja, no? Change it to false. Kasi pag hindi natin ilinagay to class, ang i-assume niya, lower that tail is equal to true. If we don't put this, magdi-default siya sa lower that tail is equal to true. Ibig sabihin nun, ang kukunin niya yung probability yung nasa left side. No? Lower tail eh. No? Okay, so let's compute for that. Clear natin yung drawings and then X. So, ang dali lang nito, no? Ito. So, I now wrote this, no? PT, probability of T, ni B1 is, we're using this PT. So, T stat, ito yung 10.17 natin. And then what's your, ito, degree of freedom. It's, the degree of freedom is N minus K minus 1. Okay, or, okay, mamaya, tingnan natin ha. You can also use, pakita ko na lang. Mamaya, control C, palitan natin yan, pwede rin to, no? But ito muna, N, what's N? That's the number of rows of the object wage. Minus 1, what's minus 1? That's for your regressor. Degree of freedom lost. Kasi may ginagamit tayong isang regressor. And minus 1 pa rin, degree of freedom lost because of the intercept. So dalawang degrees of freedom ang nawala, ang na-lose natin because of, we have to estimate the intercept and the slope. Okay, so that's 2 degrees of freedom loss. Kaya that's N minus 2. No? And then lower tail should be equal to false. So this one, class, will give us the probability on the other side, on the right side. Okay, i-run natin to, and you get this, 1.39, okay, times 10 to the negative 22. But that's only one side, di ba? So anong gagawin natin dito, class? Dapat yung probability natin, PT, okay, so we have to multiply that by times 2. Bakit times 2? Kasi di ba double-sided yung T distribution natin. Ang total probability will be the probability on the right-hand side and the left-hand side. So if we run this, okay, I'm getting 2.78 to the negative 22. Okay, which is not the same as, bakit ganito, no? Ito, bakit 2 point ano? Bakit magkaiba siya? Ito ang p-value natin dito, 2 times e to the negative 16. Sa atin, to the negative 22. Okay, so let me explain that, no, in a while. But what I wanted to illustrate here is ito, yung end row, pwede natin palitan to ng, how do you compute for the degree of freedom. Di ba model 1 and then dollar? Meron ditong ayan may degree of freedom dito. Yan, df na residual. Okay, this is also the same as n minus k minus 1. Okay, so i-times 2 natin to. Okay, so let me call this, okay, sige, pareho na lang, no? We should get the same, no? Sige, gawin kong 1, 1. Para ma-compare natin. So let me run all of this. Alright. Yan, di ba pareho, no? Ito, yung mod 1 degree of freedom ng residual. Okay. Paano class kung paano kung ang gagamitin natin yung lower that tail? Sige nga, let's run another one, Control C, Control V. What if gusto natin kunin yung yung nasa right hand side, no? In other words, ganito. Ito, paano natin makukuha to? Paano class? Kasi ito nakuha natin dito, di ba? Isa. Paano to? If this is 10.17, okay, therefore, class, this is negative 10.17. Kasi mirror image yan eh. Okay, so what we can do is, tanggalin ko tong, okay. Tanggalin ko na tong drawing natin. Preview ko to. So if I use negative here, so negative 10.17, no? Okay, will we be getting the same answer? Okay, run natin to lahat. Okay. So what's this? Bakit 2 ito, class? Is this correct? Okay, ano mali dito, class? Ano mali dito, class? Hindi pareho, oh. Dapat pareho lang yan, class. Kasi ang ginamit natin yung negative lang eh, yung negative 10. So what should I have changed here, class? Anyone? Dapat, class, dapat ito. Diba? True dapat yan. Diba? Kasi, yan. Correct. Thank you, Micah. That's correct, no? Dapat yung lower tail natin dapat true. Ayan. So if i-run ulit natin lahat to, ha? Yan. Okay. Pare-pareho na siya, no? Pare-pareho na. Okay. Now, ang bilis ng oras. Grabe. Okay. I have a concern about yung t-value natin kasi ang lumalabas 2e to the negative 16. No? Ito yung lumabas, oh. 2e, okay, mali ito, no? Sorry. Dapat ito, ganyan, no? Yan. 2e, negative 16. Now, just for the information of everyone, CR, gumagamit siya ng ito, this is machine, machine numbering, no? Yung 2e to the negative 16. Pakirun nga sandali ito, no? Copy this. Tanggalin na lang muna natin to options, ha? Kasi magkakaproblema tayo sa 17. Ito na lang muna, class. I-run natin to. No? Control C. I-run natin dito sa console na lang. Control D. Okay, what do you get? That machine, $double.eps. So, ibig sabihin nito, this is the smallest non-zero floating number that's recognized by R as non-zero. Okay? Non-zero to. Hindi siya zero. I-prove natin, ha? Okay, I'm going to call this number, I'm going to generate this number called X. And this X is point machine $double.eps. So, i-run ko to ha. Okay, so may X na tayo dito, no? What's our X? X is ito, no? Itong dot machine, $double.eps. Okay. Now, I'm going to create an equation where I'm going to ask 1 plus X ba is equal to 1? Kasi class, if this is true, then it means that X is equal to 0. Diba? If 1 plus X is equal to 1, equality to, no? Then dapat ang lalabas sa answer, true. Ibig sabihin, X is 0. Okay, so let's run that. Okay, tingnan nyo, false. Ibig sabihin si X is not equal to 0. It is a number. It has a value. Yung value niyan, yung that very small number. Okay, now, I'll create another number, X1. So, babawasan ko yung machine, ganito gawin natin ha. I'm going to reduce, kasi di ba si X, yun yung machine that double natin. I'm going to reduce that number. Babawasan ko siya nitong number na to. Okay, so I'm creating this number, X1. If you take a look at X1, asan na si X1? Ito, di ba? Mas maliit siya kaysa kay X. Ito. Right? Now, tingnan natin. 1 plus X1, is it equal to 1? So, let's run this. Okay, anong answer? True. Ibig sabihin, itong X1 na to, it was considered as 0. Okay? Yung 2.2 na yan, to the negative 18, kinonsider na ni Aryan as 0. So, ang smallest number na will be recognized as non-zero is this one. Yung dot machine $double.eps. No? Okay, so ang ginawa ni R dito, yung P na ginawa niya, hindi siya exact na P. Ang re-register lang niya dito yung smallest na floating number. Kaya tinan ito, no? Alright, so ito, hindi niya sinulat talaga yung P value. However, class, okay, it's almost time. May I just have 1 minute, class? Okay, however, class. Okay, however, ang sabi dito, anong gagawin ko dito? Okay. Pwede naman natin makuha yung talagang value ni control art. Right? So, let's create this object. Okay, mod 1 dollar coefficients, no? We can get the value of the coefficients. I-run natin to. Okay. So, ang binigay lang niya intercept. Wait, ha? I'll create this object gawin kong x2. X2. Hindi pa rin, no? Actually, sige. Kasi yung coefficients natin, class, ito yan no? Sorry for this, no? Ano ba yung mga coefficients natin? Estimate, standard error, t-value, at sign probability. So, 4 yan siya. No? Yan yung mga coefficients natin. So, here I'm going to make it, okay, tanggalin mo lang itong x2 na to, no? So, mod 1, coefficient 1 to 4. So, ipapaprint ko lahat. No? Ba't nawala? Wait, ha? Okay, what if I just print yung 4 lang? Sorry, ha? Wait. Nagkakamali ako sa coefficients MA. Okay. Mukhang mali ako dito, ha? Dapat makukuha natin yun, Mod 1. Terms din, di terms yun. Okay, hindi. Alright, so let me just i-ano ko lang klase kung saan ako nagkamali. Kasi dapat mod 1 and then coefficients. Ay, wait. Sorry. Dapat, hindi, mali yung ginawa ko. summary dapat, no? Hindi mod 1. Summary ng model 1 and then ito pala, coefficients. Okay, there's dito na ako nagkamali. Sorry. Coefficients. Okay, hindi dapat model 1 but the summary of model 1. Okay, run natin to. Control enter. Wala pa rin. Mali ba? Mali yung ano ko, spelling ko. Coefficients. Ayan, okay. There you go. Okay? So, summary ng model 1, $sign coefficients, and it will give us all the values. Okay, yung t-value natin dito, 2.78, pareho ba siya dun sa natin kanina? 2.78, 2597, exactly the same. Okay, so binigay din, na, ando din yung value niyan ng coefficients, no? All right? So, okay, I made a mistake here. Mod 1 yung nagay ko. It should be summary model 1 coefficients. All right, so it's already time, class. I'm sorry for the extension. Okay, so let me stop recording now.